There's a patch of desert in northern Mexico where nothing seems to work. Radios fall silent, compasses go haywire, cell phones completely useless. Some say the Earth's magnetic field is twisted there. Others whisper about UFOs and portals to other dimensions. Welcome to the Zone of Silence, Mexico's very own Bermuda Triangle. But what if I told you that this legendary mystery might not be what it seems? What if the real story is far more fascinating and far more human than any paranormal tale? Let's dive into the heart of this enigma and see where the evidence leads us. Tucked deep in the Chihuahuan Desert, the Zone of Silence, or La Zona del Silencio, sits at the meeting point of three Mexican states, Durango, Coahuila, and Chihuahua. It's about 400 miles south of El Paso, Texas, and covers roughly 30 miles within the larger Mapimí Biosphere Reserve. According to the legend, this place has been cursed with silence since the 1930s, when Mexican pilot Francisco Sarabia allegedly experienced instrument failure while flying overhead. In 1964, engineer Harry de la Peña from Mexico's National Oil Company was exploring the desert when his radios mysteriously stopped working. He dubbed it the Zone of Silence. And then came the event that would cement the legend forever. July 11, 1970. The US Air Force launched an Athena V-123D test rocket from Utah, targeting White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. But something went catastrophically wrong. The rocket veered wildly off course and crashed 200 miles south of the Mexican border, deep in the Mapimí Desert. What happened next seemed to confirm every paranormal theory about the zone. Recovery crews reported equipment malfunctions. Communications failed. The US military launched a massive, secretive operation, even building a temporary road and rail line to remove the debris. They excavated hundreds of tons of soil from the crash site. For a simple rocket crash, this seemed excessive, unless there was something they weren't telling us. Now, here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. That Athena rocket wasn't just carrying scientific instruments. Hidden inside were two small vials of cobalt-57, a radioactive isotope used in salted bombs, weapons designed to contaminate vast areas with long-lasting radiation. This wasn't a mysterious crash. It was a nuclear incident on foreign soil during the height of the Cold War. Suddenly, the pieces start falling into place. The secrecy? A misfired ballistic missile test carrying radioactive material had crashed in Mexico. The massive cleanup? They had to conduct a complete radiological decontamination, removing every trace of contaminated soil. The road construction? You need serious infrastructure to safely transport hundreds of tons of radioactive debris. But here's the crucial part. Locals witnessing this unprecedented military operation weren't told the real reason. They saw strange, secretive activity and naturally began to wonder what could require such an intense response. And this is where human ingenuity enters the picture. After the cleanup, locals, particularly a guard named Jamie, who had been hired to protect the crash site, realized they had stumbled onto something potentially valuable. Not alien technology, but something that might prove even more profitable. A compelling story that could attract visitors to their remote corner of the desert. These local entrepreneurs, known as zoneros, began weaving together elements of the rocket crash, Cold War paranoia, and the growing UFO culture of the 1970s into a narrative that was both mysterious and marketable. They spoke of radios falling silent, compasses spinning wildly, and strange visitors appearing to ask for water. When tourists arrived and found their equipment working perfectly, the zoneros had a ready explanation that kept the mystery alive. The zone moves, and therefore be hard to locate. It was brilliant storytelling disguised as supernatural phenomenon. But what happens when we actually examine these claims? The results are illuminating. Researchers and park rangers at the Mapimí Biosphere Reserve used two-way radios regularly without any unusual problems. The famous radio silence appears to be more folklore than fact. Those dramatically spinning compasses, while the Earth's crust contains magnetic anomalies everywhere. These are microscopic, static variations, far too small to affect a handheld compass in any noticeable way. Any dramatic needle spinning demonstrated to tourists likely involves some creative assistance. The meteorite theory. The area doesn't actually have an unusually high concentration of meteorites. The famous Allende meteorite that supposedly proves the zone's magnetic properties isn't even magnetic, and it landed 140 kilometers away from the supposed zone. The higher number of meteorite finds in the Chihuahuan Desert appears to be due to the arid climate, which makes them easier to spot and preserve, rather than any mysterious magnetic attraction. So, what is the Zone of Silence today, stripped of its manufactured mystery? It's part of a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, and here's where the area reveals its genuine wonders. Not paranormal, but natural and scientific. This 400,000-hectare reserve sits in what was once an ancient seabed, part of the prehistoric Sea of Tethys. The geology here tells a story spanning millions of years, with marine fossils embedded in desert rock, evidence of when this harsh landscape was underwater. The biodiversity is extraordinary. Over 400 plant species thrive here, including the rare purple-tinged nopal coyotillo cactus that changes color during dry spells. There are 200 bird species and 36 reptile species, many found nowhere else on Earth. The crown jewel is the endangered Bolson tortoise, one of the largest tortoise species in North America. These ancient creatures, some living over 100 years, have distinctive triangle-shaped markings that locals once claimed were mutations from alien radiation. In reality, these triangular patterns are natural variations that help researchers identify individual tortoises. The area's unique ecosystem exists because of its position at the convergence of 4 major desert regions. This creates microclimates that support species adapted to very specific conditions. What's fascinating is how the very features that make this place scientifically remarkable, its isolation, harsh conditions, and unusual wildlife, provided perfect ingredients for mystification. When people encountered purple cacti and giant tortoises with strange markings in such a remote, otherworldly landscape, it's understandable how supernatural explanations might seem plausible. Now, you might wonder, if the scientific explanation is so clear-cut, why does the legend persist? The answer reveals something profound about human nature and the power of narrative. The Zone of Silence legend serves multiple purposes. For locals, it brings tourism revenue to an economically challenged region. For visitors, it offers the thrill of mystery and the possibility of experiencing something beyond the ordinary. For paranormal enthusiasts, it provides a tangible location where the impossible might be possible. The Mexican government maintains research stations throughout the reserve, but rumors persist that more secretive work happens behind closed doors, despite the fact that the real research focuses on conservation biology and desert ecology. Perhaps most importantly, the legend fills a psychological need. In an age where science seems to have explained everything, places like the Zone of Silence offer a refuge for wonder and mystery. They remind us that there might still be things beyond our understanding. And maybe that's not entirely wrong, just not in the way most people think. So, here's the thing. The Zone of Silence isn't proof that aliens are real, but it is proof of something pretty incredible. How fast we humans can turn a boring military accident into an epic legend. Think about it. A radioactive cleanup became a tourist trap. Cold War paranoia turned into alien stories. And bad cell service in the middle of nowhere became this massive international mystery. And honestly, the craziest part is that all this made-up drama completely overshadowed what's actually amazing about this place. It's home to creatures that exist literally nowhere else on Earth. So, I guess the real question isn't, are there aliens in the desert? It's more like, do we lose something when we figure out the truth behind these stories? Or do we actually gain something better when we discover the real human drama behind the legends? I mean, personally, I think the truth is way more interesting than the myth. But what do you think? Drop a comment and let me know. What other famous mysteries do you think might just be really good stories that got out of hand? And if this whole deep dive blew your mind, smash that like button and subscribe for more investigations that go way deeper than the clickbait headlines. Trust me, reality is way weirder than fiction most of the time.